Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Samsung NX500, priced at $799 US at launch just several weeks ago. It's already dropped to $699, making it even more compelling when taking into account its feature set. So this is a mirrorless interchangeable lens camera based around a 28.2 megapixel BSI CMOS APS-C sensor. It does have some very impressive still capabilities, but the reason I'm sharing it with all of you is that it is a video beast. That's where it changes the game, or at least promises to. And that's because this is a compact mirrorless interchangeable lens camera, much like many of the Sony NEX cameras of days past that I've covered, the A6000 being the most recent. Of course, Sony has gone full frame, but here we have video quality you simply cannot find from any other manufacturer. And that's because this little mirrorless camera is capable of capturing Cinema 4K at 24p, UHD at 30p, and Full HD up and down the line. Keep in mind, all in H.265. Not really a very tangible format, but definitely future-proof on every level and the most efficient codec on Earth right now. So this is very much about bleeding-edge technology. When it comes to stills, this is far from a slouch, but there are better still mirrorless cameras. The A6000, in my opinion, already one of them, even though I haven't tested this just on its merit and what I've seen. But let me go ahead and get this thing out of the box. Again, at $700, I think this is a great value, and that's because ideally, what you're getting here is the best of both worlds. I mean, that's what Samsung is after. And also, did I break the seal? Yes, I did. Also, more importantly, I want to say that this is in many ways a stripped-down version of the NX1. And the NX1 is the higher end, the professional grade version of this camera. And I'll be talking about that as well as eventually comparing this to the A6000. So as I get this out of the box, the first thing we're greeted with is the obligatory paperwork. Maybe there's software in here. I'm going to take a peek. I'm not really that curious. Yeah, so we've got some startup guides. I'm putting that aside. Let's get right down to it. So there's a 16 to 50 mil power zoom lens, very similar to the Pancake that Sony has that I've reviewed in the past. And here we have it, Samsung doing their own version. And this is in no way a copy of what Sony has put out. Let me be very clear. Samsung has been trying now for several years to make their presence known in the mirrorless world. And the NX1 and the NX500 are by far and away their best foot forward in doing so. So this little 16 to 50 lens has zoom control right here, as well as a function button for timer, because this is a camera that really is ideal for selfies. Wi-Fi, NFC, you've got a Super AMOLED 3-inch display on this camera, no EVF, so this is far from ideal for those of you that do require reading glasses, and the AMOLED may not be the best solution when it comes to being able to see it in direct sunlight, but of course I will test that out. Here's the camera. Build quality feels solid. It is made in China. You've got a rubber grip basically around the entire body. You can see the display right there. Fully articulates all the way around to selfie mode, something that will be significant to many of you, those of you that want to blog with this. Again, Cinema 4K video capture, very impressive. You will need an SD card, though, to accommodate that write speed that is so data rich, and that is a UHS 3 grade card class 10. In terms of the button layout, quick run through. You can see we have the shutter button right here, power button. This reminds me of basically, again, Sony cameras. We have our mode dial right here. We have our zoom function button right here, basically going to a full crop on your image. Your mobile button here, which I assume is to sync up with your phone, essentially turning on Wi-Fi for transfer. But again, I do not know, first time handling the camera. Of course, some 4K branding, the microphones, the array is surrounding the hot shoe, which is designed for the included flash, which you'll see in a moment. And then beyond that, I mentioned you have a 3-inch Super AMOLED display, which I wish more companies were using AMOLEDs across their lineups. Of course, Samsung, one of the biggest manufacturers, so it makes sense that they are bringing that into the game. And then we've got another dial that I assume is customizable, function button, menu, exposure, your display button, autofocus, everything you'd expect to, quick access controls on a camera that's definitely more geared or oriented rather than just another point and shoot. And that's who this is directly aimed at. For those of you that are wondering, this is definitely an enthusiast camera. The NX1, again, reserved for the pros in just about every way. And you can see the sensor right here. And the NX mount is Samsung's very own in the same way that every other manufacturer has their own. But that is a flaw as well here, simply because there isn't a lot of glass out there for this camera. And that is also true of the NX1. So let's see what else is in here. We've got our battery, which is the Samsung BP1130. From what I've read, roughly 300 in change in terms of still shots. Your micro USB cable right there for charging and transfer. I don't believe we have a dedicated charger here. And then we've got our flash, which attaches on the mount that you saw there. That's not a standard mount, a hot shoe that you're going to be able to use for other things. And of course, the Samsung strap. And I think that is pretty much it. The only other thing that's hiding here is, well, what do you know? A Galaxy-style white charger to use to charge this. So that's pretty much it. Let me go ahead and throw this back in the box. Get it out of the way. And let's talk about exactly what we've got here. So, as I mentioned before, really the novelty here is that in terms of the still capabilities, you are getting a very solid offering. It is limited, though, by its glass. I say that because this camera is capable of 9 frames per second with autofocus, as I mentioned earlier, in JPEG mode, about 6 RAW, which is still very good for its price. Having a little trouble with the rear cap there. But here is where things get a little bit complicated. Despite those specifications, the NX1, of course, much faster. The NX1, as I'm trying to get this on, got to line up the red contact points. The NX1 is capable of 15 frames per second. The NX1 has an EVF, so if you need an electronic viewfinder, something that many users do require, you're not going to get that with this camera. No clean HDMI out on this. I did not show you the ports here on the side yet. Now is as good a time as any. Let me go ahead and close the screen. And you can see right there that we have 2 ports, the micro USB port for charging, transfer, etc., as well as HDMI out. Now that's not, it will give you a clean HDMI out, but not in terms of recording capability. So no true clean HDMI out like you'll get with the NX1. In terms of other things, the sensor identical to the NX1, the actual video capture capabilities also identical, which really is what attracted me personally to this camera. I mean, this is a compact hybrid, the best of both worlds in many ways. At least that's what I am hoping. The price reduction doesn't seem promising though, but that also could be just because consumers aren't latching on to 4K yet, and quite frankly, they should be. It's a very good way of future-proofing any memory moment you want to record. There is the video button, speaking of video. And again, beyond that, the only thing the NX1 really has, as I've mentioned already, is the viewfinder, the clean HDMI out. It's a bigger body, so it's going to better support the larger lenses that are made for this camera, meaning the NX1 as well as all of the other NX models, because the glass is, of course, compatible with any NX. But beyond that, you're working with the same display. You're working with the same sensor. So the core guts and video capture is exactly the same. So it's all about differentiating between the professional or prosumer class and the traditional consumer. And there's no question this camera, I think, hits the sweet spot for the regular consumer. The battery bay right here, also access to the SD card. As I mentioned before, you're going to need a high-speed card. Let me see if this thing actually powers up. And with H.265, the codec that they've chosen to go with, it is the most efficient, and that's great for capture sizes. That means you can get a lot more mileage out of, let's say, a traditional 64 gig card. The only problem is, the downside is that H.265 is not really widely supported, so you will find yourself converting video in most instances unless you're just looking to play it back. And that's what I think, again, Samsung is betting on. So you can see the camera powers up very quickly, and there we have the menu. And of course, this is an AMOLED that is a touchscreen, so you can go with touch, or you can also navigate traditionally with physical buttons. That's another thing that I think many users wanted to see in many Sony cameras and have yet to have the luxury. Hopefully Sony plans on answering this sort of camera in their NEX, now Alpha E-mount lineup shortly, because this is really what I've been waiting for. A small form factor, a great still imaging machine that also takes incredible video. Now there is a caveat with the video, both with this camera as well as the NX1. And that is the last thing I want to point out on this unboxing and quick look, which is not so quick anymore at over 10 minutes. There is a crop factor inherently with any mirrorless interchangeable lens camera like this, or even like the A6000 that I have right here with the 20mm fixed prime lens. You can see they're about the same size. If I had the pancake zoom, they'd be about the same size as well. And that is the crop factor. So you have a 1.6, I believe, crop factor here. But when it comes to shooting 4K video, that crop factor goes up to 2.5 times. Now, this is something I encountered with the Panasonic FZ1000, as well as the LX100 from Panasonic. And that's because in order to capture 4K video, it had to crop. Those cameras, though, did capture in MP4, much more flexible when it comes to video editing. Not trying to go on a tangent, but something noteworthy for those of you thinking about those models. So cropping is going to happen in video. That means you have to anticipate that you're going to have to distance yourself from your subject. But again, I see that as a plausible, in fact, something I'm very comfortable with in the exchange of finally getting 4K, UHD, let alone cinema 4K at 24p in a body this size. And then on the still side, the one thing I haven't mentioned this whole time is that forget the 9 frames per second, burst mode. You've got over 400 points of autofocus with the hybrid system here. And I should have really spoken about that at the very beginning. But again, video is what makes this camera so unique. So with over 400 points of focus, with, again, hybrid, both contrast and phase detection, which is far more than anything else in its class, and then the 4K video capabilities, this thing seems like a monster. And build quality seems good. Again, Super AMOLED display, better than anything else in the business in my opinion, but I'll see how it fares in the real world. And of course, that kit glass is going to determine a lot of what my impressions really are with this camera. And because the NX lineup is so limited with regard to the glass lineup, that's what makes me think this is more attractive than the NX1. But weigh in on the comments, your personal opinion. I mean, the one has significant advantages for pros, but considering its limitations in glass, I don't know that it's right for any pro to begin with. So definitely a very solid offering from Samsung. I am excited to share it with all of you. Good change of pace from just, really seeing Sony make just about every innovation in the DI business. So Sony, this is your cue. It's time to make an announcement, which may be coming at the end of this month, that will hopefully one-up this product. But if not, you may be looking at one of the best hybrid still video compact mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras ever made, despite its incredibly small lens lineup. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.